Good afternoon. Transportation Systems Management. So, this subject is having 4 credits. So, we will start with an introduction. We know that human beings travel either for food or leisure. Also, the raw materials need to be transported to manufacturing units, and finished goods need to reach the consumers. Transportation fulfills these basic needs of humanity. Thus, transportation plays a major role in the development of the human civilization. There is also a very strong correlation between the evolution of human settlement and the proximity of transport facilities, and also the quality of transport facilities and standard of living. Thus, we can say that the urban transportation planning is the process that leads to decisions on transportation policies and programs. So, transportation system management, or TSM, that is actually a package of short term measures in order to make the most productive and cost effective use of existing transportation facilities. So, we have so many issues on our roads, like as the traffic on the existing road system in cities is growing at a rapid rate, congestion becomes a serious problem. Also, accidents. So, all these are very serious issues to be addressed. Medium and long term solutions like widening roads, providing elevated flyovers, and constructing bypasses are urban expressways, now the K-rail, etc. So, all these are very costly. So, what we in this subject we are dealing is simple and inexpensive solutions in order to tide over this crisis for some time. Actually, these are not permanent solutions. These strategies which we study in this particular subject, okay, transportation systems management, they are very simple and inexpensive solutions. So, just to tide over this crisis for some few years, we are actually deriving or we are developing certain strategies, and that is what we are studying in this particular subject. So, TSM is mainly that. It also embraces travel demand management. So, our aim is to reduce the traffic flow, especially during peak hour. So, this TDM or travel demand management techniques, they are aimed at reducing the traffic flow by adopting certain restrictions or certain techniques. Okay. So, what is the need for this TSM? I told you earlier itself. There is so much of congestion in our streets, and the long-term solutions or permanent solutions are very costly. So, we need to go for simple and inexpensive solutions. So, examples of such solutions or techniques are: one is carpooling and other ride-sharing programs. So, we know that if some 4 or 5 people residing in a particular flat or nearby in a nearby location, and they have a common workplace, or they have to go to a common city center for work or for a study or something, then they can share their car. Okay, so that is something which is very common and very cost effective solution. Okay, thereby we can reduce the pressure on the roads. Okay. Similarly, peripheral parking systems or parking schemes. So, there are schemes like park and walk. Park and walk means the motorists they are decide to park at the outskirts of a town and walk down to the town center. So, somewhere they'll park their vehicle and then they'll walk down to their workplace. So, that is one method. Another method is park and ride. So, here the motorists decide to park their car at the outskirts of the town, and then they can rely on the public transportation system to travel to their destination at the town center. Okay. Another type of peripheral parking scheme is kiss and ride. Kiss and ride means somebody should drop that particular person at the bus stop. Like your parents will be dropping you at the bus stop, and from there you will be taking bus to the college and or your workplace, and then again in the evening the reverse takes place. Okay. So that is called as, so these are all the schemes available. So any one of this whichever is feasible for that particular person, they can adopt it. So that is called as peripheral parking schemes. Then chartered buses. So chartered buses means the institutional buses, like LBS college is having college bus. So that will that will connect the common workplace to certain areas, and thereby the number of vehicles on the road can be reduced. Then staggering of office hours and flexible time of work. So an effective way to spread the duration of peak hour and to lessen the pressure on the road space is this staggering of office hours and time of work. That is, certain schools like Kendriya Vidyalayas, like St. Thomas, etc., they are having their school time in the early morning, like from 6:30 to 12 or something like that. So the school hours are planned in such a way that they are they are having certain gap compared to the office, or when compared with the office hours. So office and industrial working hours can also be staggered, so that morning there will be a peak hour, say from 7 to 8 there will be a peak hour, again from say 8:30 to 10:30 there will be another peak hour. Similarly, the schools will be over by 12, so 12 to again up to 2 o'clock again there will be a peak hour. Again evening 4 to or 4:30 to till 6 again there is another peak hour. So that is also a strategy of TDM technique. Okay. We can manage the travel demand. Then internal shuttle service in the central business district. So central area, that will be very busy. So now the government of Kerala has introduced certain shuttle services, like circle buses are there, a brown circle, red circle, blue circle, etc. So all these, they circle in a particular area. So some people who want, some persons there, as part of their work, they may be required to travel to nearby places during the daytime. So for that they'll have to have their own car or two-wheeler. But if such circle buses are there at regular intervals of time, then people will opt such methods, and that will again reduce the pressure on the roads, okay, during the peak hours. Then parking restraints. So sometimes we have this system of very high charges on the center or city centers. Parking charges will be very high, whereas at the outskirts of the city the parking charges will be less. So people will be motivated to park their vehicles at the outskirts and depend on certain methods like public transport modes or carpooling to reach the central areas or where the traffic is very high. So such methods are called as parking restraints. So government is giving certain schemes or giving motivation to the motorists to park their vehicles at the outskirts of the city by reducing the parking fees at those areas. Okay, so that is the method called parking restraint. Then road pricing. So here we are charging the users of congested roads according to the time spent or distance travelled. The principle behind road pricing is that those who cause congestion or use the road in the congested period should be charged, thus giving the road user the choice to whether make a journey or not. Like now the price is so high so parking fee is so high, and so people will not travel during such peak hours, and they will uh, change their time of travel. So that is road pricing. Then entry fee. Entry fee, it includes supplementary licensing, tolls, admission charges, etc. For example, the city of Singapore, they have introduced area licensing system. So single occupant automobiles are required to pay supplementary license fees to get into the city center during restricted morning peak periods. Just imagine the case when, if you are traveling alone, you can't enter a particular central area where the traffic is high. Okay, you will be stopped there. So this is to make the motorists change their mode and timing of trips, which could then reduce the volume of traffic to the restricted city center to a level equivalent to its off-peak period during the day. So that is one method that is actually possible here also, to introduce this area licensing system. So that is an adoptable or type of method. Okay. Then priority for buses in traffic. Normally, other than this single enter, like if there are two vehicles, one a personal vehicle, like another one a public transport system, then that will be given preference, so that people will be encouraged to adopt or to rely on public transport systems. Then restrictions on entry of trucks during daytime. So all these trucks and freight, that is cargo carrying heavy vehicles, will not be allowed to enter the city center during daytime. അതിപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഡേ ടൈം ഒരു 8 AM to say 9 the night, 8 AM to 9 PM കാർഗോ ക്യാരി ചെയ്യാനുള്ള പെർമിഷൻ ഇല്ല. ഡ്യൂറിങ് നൈറ്റ് ടൈം കാർഗോ, അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു മെത്തേഡ്. ഓക്കെ. Now next is the strategy. So I think you got an overall idea about the subject. The subject is not about permanent measures. It is all about simple alternative methodologies to be adopted. The methodologies are very cost effective, and they can be adopted in order to reduce the traffic flow during peak hours. So that is all about this TSM. Now the strategies, the important steps of transportation planning or strategies are given below. First one is forecasting the target year population and economic growth for the subject metropolitan area. So we have an area, and for that area we will be forecasting what will be the population, and what will be the economic growth, because economic growth gives individuals the power to use their own vehicles. So economic growth also has to be forecasted. So based on that, the allocation of land use will be done. That is the second step. Okay. So based on this step 1, allocation of land use and socio-economic projections, individual analysis zones according to land availability, local zoning and related public policies. Step 3, specification of alternative transportation plans, partly based on the result of step 1 and step 2. Next step is calculation of the capital and maintenance costs for each of the alternative plan. And step 5, application of calibrated demand forecasting models to predict target year equilibrium flows expected to use each alternative given the land use and socio-economic projection of step 2 and the characteristics of the transportation alternatives of step 3. So here we are actually doing the process of application of the calibrated demand forecasting model to predict the target equilibrium flows which are expected to use each of these alternatives. So though we suggest a lot of alternative, whether people will adopt these particular alternatives and whether this is a viable alternative, all that will be studied in step 5. After that, next step is conversion of the equilibrium flows to direct user benefits such as savings in travel time and travel cost attributable to the proposed plan. So this flow will be converted to direct user benefits. Like suppose if a particular like parking system is introduced, how much time can be travel time can be saved, okay, or how much money savings in money can be made. So all that will be so that equilibrium flow will be converted to monetary values like direct user benefit in terms of the cost. Then step 7, comparative evaluation and selection of the best alternatives. So this will help the decision makers, that is the elected officials, to determine which is the which policy to be adopted. ഇപ്പോൾ ഇത്ര എന്താണ് ഒരാൾക്ക് ഇത്ര സേവിങ്സ് ഉണ്ടാവുകയാണ്, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഫ്യൂവൽ ഇത്രയും സേവ് ആവുകയാണ്, ടൈം ഇപ്പോൾ 30 മിനിറ്റിൽ എത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് നമുക്ക് 20 മിനിറ്റിൽ എത്താൻ പറ്റുന്നു. ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള വളരെ പർട്ടിക്കുലറായിട്ടുള്ള ടു ദ പോയിൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള എന്താണ് ഇവാലുവേഷൻസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ ബേസിസിലാണ് ഇതിൽ ഏത് പോളിസി വേണം എന്ന് നമ്മൾ ഡിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ദി സ്റ്റെപ്പ് 7. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദി steps involved in the TSM planning. Now that can be shown as a TSM planning cycle. So this is a chart which shows the major activities in the transportation planning process. Each step is briefly discussed in the coming slides. So this TSM planning cycle, it must operate within the framework of the goals and objective of the study area. So we have to promote interaction with public officials, public agencies, and the citizens of the area must be they must be defined to make sure that the objectives reflect current community values. So we have a certain objectives and that should be beneficial to the people or to the public. So that is how we have to plan. So first is the different components of this particular flow chart. They are, first one is the organization. So organization means MPO. MPO means Metropolitan Planning Organization. Okay. So MPO, then operating agencies, etc. So for example, like we have CITCO. CITCO is City and Industrial Development Corporation. So that is a particular organization which is responsible for the planning and implementation of the development plans of in various areas. Okay. Similarly, we have state metropolitan planning organizations. So all that they look after the planning and they make sure to achieve the goals and objectives reflecting the needs of the society. Then after, so that is the role of these organizations. So these organizations, they take up the work, and then the planning work programs, that is the second part of this flow chart. Planning work programs, that includes prospectus and unified planning work program. So what is prospectus? So prospectus, നിങ്ങളിപ്പോൾ 12th കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് അഡ്മിഷൻ എടുക്കാൻ സമയത്ത് ഒരു പ്രോസ്പെക്ടസ് ഉണ്ടാകും അല്ലേ? So likewise, these organizations should prepare plans that are very clear in vision and clearly they should indicate the responsibilities of different coordinating agencies so that there is no overlap of works and interferences. So there should be a multi-layer framework for the planning process. And this prospectus should define planning procedures, important issues, responsibilities and elements of planning. So ഇപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ ട്വൽത്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് എൻട്രൻസ് കഴിഞ്ഞ് നിങ്ങൾ കയറുന്ന ആ ഒരു പ്രോസ്പെക്ടസിനകത്ത് എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, വളരെ ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് നിങ്ങളുടെ ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് കോളേജസിൽ ഏതൊക്കെ കോഴ്സസ് ഉണ്ട്, എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അവിടുത്തെ ഫീസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ എന്താണ്, എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അതിൻ്റെ പിന്നെ പ്രൊസീജിയർ അലോട്ട്മെൻറ്റ് പ്രൊസീജിയർ, അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ നിങ്ങൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ കുറേ വിശദാംശങ്ങളെല്ലാം അതിനകത്തുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതുപോലെ തന്നെയാണ് ഈ ഓരോ ഓർഗനൈസേഷനും വളരെ ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് പ്ലാൻസ് ഓരോ ഏരിയ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആയിട്ട് പ്ലാനിങ് പ്രൊസീജിയർ എന്താണ്, അവിടുത്തെ ഇഷ്യൂ എന്താണ്, എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അവർ അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട ഇഷ്യൂസ്, എന്താണ് അവരുടെ ഗോൾസ്, അപ്പോൾ ഇതെല്ലാം പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യുന്ന ആ ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് പ്ലാനിങ് റിപ്പോർട്ട്, അതാണ് ശരിക്കും പ്രോസ്പെക്ടസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ദെൻ യൂണിഫൈഡ് പ്ലാനിങ് വർക്ക് പ്രോഗ്രസ്. സോ യൂണിഫൈഡ് പ്ലാനിങ് വർക്ക് പ്രോഗ്രസ് മീൻസ് it describes all the anticipated urban transportation and related planning activities. The document works to be performed. So there should be a unified procedure that there should be some standards and the works. ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഒരു സ്ട്രെച്ച് മാത്രം എന്താണ് എക്സ്പ്രസ് വേസ് കൊടുത്തിട്ട് അതിനെ രണ്ട് എൻഡും കണക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ സെൻട്രൽ ബിസിനസ് ഡിസ്ട്രിക്റ്റിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരു പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഏരിയയിലേക്ക് മാത്രം നമ്മൾ അത്രയും കോസ്റ്റ്ലി ആയിട്ടുള്ളൊരു പ്രോജക്റ്റ് കൊടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ദാറ്റ് വിൽ നോട്ട് ബി ഹാവിങ് എനി മീനിങ് അല്ലേ. സോ ദാറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ടോട്ടലി മീനിങ്ലെസ്. സോ ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി കണക്റ്റഡ്. അപ്പോൾ കണക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ എല്ലാ ഡോക്യുമെൻ്റ് വർക്ക്സും എല്ലായിടത്തെയും ബോട്ടിൽ നെക്സൊക്കെ ഒഴിവാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് എല്ലായിടത്തെയും ഒരേപോലെ ഈവനായിട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ യൂണിഫൈഡായിട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടുന്ന ഒരു പ്ലാനിങ്. സപ്പോസ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു സ്ഥലത്തെ റോഡ് മാത്രം കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയി, ബാക്കി ആ റിംഗ് റോഡിൻ്റെ ബാക്കി കണക്റ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളതൊന്നും കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ടില്ല. സോ അത് ചിലപ്പോൾ ഒരു ആഫ്റ്റർ 5 ഇയേഴ്സ് വർക്ക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ വന്നാൽ ആ 5 ഇയേഴ്സ് ഈ ഒരു പ്രോജക്റ്റ് കൊണ്ട് ഒരു ഉപകാരം ഇല്ലാതെ ഇരിക്കും അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് യൂണിഫൈഡായിട്ട് എന്താ പറയുക, ഏതൊക്കെയാണോ കണക്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് അവിടുത്തെ എല്ലാം വർക്ക് ഒരേപോലെ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്ത് അറ്റ് ദ എൻഡ് അതെല്ലാം കണക്റ്റായിട്ട് ഒരേപോലെ അതിൻ്റെ വർക്ക് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയാൽ മാത്രമേ അതുകൊണ്ട് മീനിങ് ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ യൂണിഫൈഡ് പ്ലാനിങ് വർക്ക് പ്രോഗ്രസ്. So the work progress should be monitored and it should be proceeding simultaneously. Then transportation plan. So based on these planning work program, we have transportation plan, and transportation plan can be long range element and also there can be transportation system management element. So this long range element, that means we are providing facilities, major changes in existing facilities and long range policy actions, identification of planning tools for analysis of alternatives, evaluation of alternatives like travel demand forecasting, that is to be used as a planning tool, then decision making for selecting most promising alternatives. So all that comes under long range element. And transportation system management element caters to short range transportation needs and makes the existing system efficient. Basic strategies to increase efficiency are efficient use of existing road space, reducing vehicle use in congested areas, improving transit service, improving internal management efficiency. So all these comes under the TSM planning cycle. Now based on these, the transport plan, if the long range elements are to be refined, then that plan refinement will be done, and all based on all these, transportation improvement program will be conducted. Okay, so that is staged either multi-year or annual. Multi-year means for 3 to 5 years we will be doing the improvement program. That is plan refinement. After plan refinement, if at all some areas are to be improved, then that will be done in different ways, like one for a period of 3 to 5 years. That is called a stage multi-year element. So prepares estimates of cost and revenue for a period of say 3 to 5 years. And annual means every year the revenue sources will be allocated and the work which are to be completed in one particular year. So that will be coming under annual element. Okay. So based on all this, again we will be continuing this process. We will be monitoring them. We will be updating, and a report will also be produced. And based on all these, it's a continuous. It's a like a circle. It's a continuously improving process. So again, the planning work programs will be altered based on the output, and this goes on, and this continues. So that is TSM planning cycle. So these are all the activities which I have already discussed. So we have organization, then prospectus, unified planning work progress, transportation plan, that is there in two levels. One is the long range element and the second one is TSM plan. Then plan has to be refined. So after plan refinement, there should be transportation improvement program. So that is also in stage, multi-year, and also in annual. Now next, this is a table showing the variation or the differences between long range element and the TSM element. So what are the differences in the problem in TSM and long range? So in long range, it is dependent on the problem is dependent on the growth scenarios and projected time. So that is for usually for a corridor or for a region. That means for a large area we go for a long range element. Okay. Then objectives are also broad, and it is also based on the policy related, like the metro rails or the mono rails or this new silver line or K rail. So that is a very it's actually a very big project, and that's a result of, that's as part of the objective of K rail, that is as part of a policy by the government. So that has a very wide impact. Okay. Then the options are also several model, network, and alignment alternatives. So it's a big project. So analysis procedures based on the trip and network model. So trip and network models are used as the analysis procedures in long range element. Then response time is also not critical. That means such a project may take say 10 years or 15 years to complete. So the time, so the people or the society will be benefited after such a long time. Then product preferred alternative for further study or detailed design. So we will be doing detailed designs, further study. So many alternatives will be there available, and of that we will be adopting feasible, economically and environmentally feasible alternative that will be selected in long range. Whereas in TSM I already told you, it is a very simple technique, and it includes very cost effective and temporary solutions. So there the problem is clearly defined, and the problem can be observed. Like for example, you have a particular junction like Pujapura junction, there is an issue there, congestion or frequent accidents. So that is a problem in that particular area. So the problem is clearly defined, and you can observe the problem. Okay. Whereas in the case of a metro rail or a mono rail or K rail, it is like only after years you will be able to identify the results and what are the benefits. Okay. So benefits will be visible only after say 10 to 15 years. So that is the case of that is a key difference between long range and TSM. Okay. Also the scale of TSM is usually local, sub area, or it's like a corridor. For a very small center or for a very small junction, you can go for this TSM techniques. Then objectives are also based on the problem. So what is the problem? Okay, the problem is that at Pujapura junction there is a traffic congestion, or there is frequent accidents at a particular spot. So you have to identify the problem, and for that problem you have to go for an objective. So that is a TSM. And also options, there will be a few specific options. So you can't identify a number of alternatives in such a case, one or two, one flyover or another method. So two or three methods, alternatives, or few actions are required in TSM approach. Then usually the analogy or simple operational relationships, they are the procedure to analyze this TSM. So the simple operational relationships that is analyzed in this, that is the procedure for analysis. Then quick responses essentially, so that problem has to be solved at as early as possible, like within 6 months if it is possible to solve that problem, that is that has to be adopted. So that is, the response time is very quick in the case of TSM. Also the designs for implementation, the product, you don't have to check a number of alternatives, just suppose design a flyover and construct it. That is the final method or final strategy. Okay, so that is all about today's class. We will discuss the next topic, that is the TSM strategies and TSM objective and scope with a particular example in the next session. Okay, thank you.